Right, so now that we have learned how to create a timer and we've learned how to make our sprite move, then let's go ahead and make a character for our sprite to catch. Okay, so to do that, we simply go back down here to choose a sprite. And you can make this anything that you want. Since I have a cat, maybe I want to make this a bird or a dog. I don't know. You can just look through all of this. I think I might choose a bird. So I'm going to type in bird, see if I have one. All right, I have this parrot. So I'm going to choose the parrot. Now, this parrot's way big. So let's go ahead, go down to size, and you can adjust any sprite that you chose. You can make it larger by increasing the number. You can make it smaller by decreasing. I'm actually going to make him about 50% of what he was. This is going to make the game a little bit more challenging. Okay, so we now want to make him move on his own. Unlike what we did with our original sprite, we're going to have him go and do random things. So if you click on our original sprite, you're going to see we have the up, down, left, and right arrows. Let's click on our parrot friend here, and we want him to move randomly. And the great thing about Scratch is that it does give us a random movement code. To do that, we're going to go down to event, because you always have to have an event. And for this one, we're actually going to click on when I receive message 1. Let's pull that over. Let's adjust that name. I'd like to go ahead and write a new message. And let's make this begin game. Hit OK. All right. So when I receive begin game, I want my little parrot here to move all over. So let's go to control, because I'm wanting him to do it for the entire game. Or, since our timer is already created, I could have him repeat this until the timer equals 0. So let's go ahead and do that. So just like we did earlier, if you remember, this is our code for the timer. We're going to do a repeat until timer equals 0. So let's go down to operators. Let's find our equals operator, turn it to 0. And all we need now is to put our timer, and that's going to be found under variables. So let's go ahead and pull my timer over. So we're going to say that this bird is going to do something until the timer equals 0. Let's make this a motion. Let's have our character glide. Now there's a difference between go to a random position and glide to a random position. If you choose go to, he's just going to appear in certain places. But if you click glide, he's going to move around the screen. Let's pull this one over. Now we don't have to adjust time by getting another controller block. All you have to do is adjust it right here. Now when I click, you can click and just see how it goes. If you like that speed, then you can leave it as is. If you want him to go slower, you just increase the number. If you want him to go faster, you could turn it to a decimal. So maybe I could go half a second. And it's going to go a lot faster. That's going to be harder to catch up. So I think I'm going to leave it at 1. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop so we can continue our editing. Now, there are a few other things that I want him to be able to do. I want this character to look like he's actually flapping his arms. If I click on costumes, I want to notice that most of the sprites that are in Scratch have more than one what we call costume. So let's go back to code. And to do this, we're just going to do another when I receive begin game event. So bring that over. And we're going to go up here to looks. When I receive begin game, I want him to show up on the screen. And I want him to forever, so we're going to find this one, forever switch to his next costume. So that's under looks. And we can either have it switch, or in this case, we're just going to go next costume. Now, the thing is, he's going to do it really, really fast if I don't give him a timeline. So I also want to go down to control and grab this one that says wait. And you can adjust this. Again, 1 second is going to look kind of long. So I'm going to adjust this down to about half a second, or a decimal 5. So now it looks like he's actually flying. So now if I click on both, it looks like he's flying all over the screen. And since you've already coded the cat, you should be able to move him around the screen by using your left and right and up and down arrows. Okay. So all we have left now is to worry about our score, because every time we touch the bird, we want to get a point. And we can do that here on this one, but I prefer to go back to our character that we're controlling. So that's where we're going to go. Go ahead and hit stop so the bird will stop moving. Okay, so we're going to be creating a new score. To do that, we're going to go down to variables, and we're going to create a new variable. Let's call this score. And it's going to pop up on the screen too. You can move it to wherever it looks right on your screen. And we're going to go over to event. If you remember, everything has to have an event. When I receive begin game, I want to set my score. This is going to look very similar to timer. I want to set my variable, which is score, to 0. So unlike the timer, we're going to have this one counting up. All right. So this control, we want this to just go on until the end of the game or until the timer hits 0. So again, we're going to repeat until timer equals 0. So this should be pretty familiar at this point because you've done this now 3 times. And during this, we want our score to increase by 1 or change by 1. That's this. Make sure that this is saying score. If you leave it as my variable or timer, it won't adjust the right one. You want to change the score by 1 anytime that your sprite is touching the parrot. So that is going to be an if-then statement. It's up here. Okay, so I'm going to bring that in. And if something happens, then change the score by 1. Well, what I want to happen is I want this sprite to touch the parrot. That's in sensing. All right, so we have this top one that says touching. Let's click on it, and you're going to find the other sprite that you have, which is parrot. And you can bring it down. It's going to fit right there. So if the touching the parrot, you're going to change the score by 1. Now, I noticed earlier that if I was running this, that the score just goes crazy. So I had to adjust this by using a control. I had to put a weight. That's going to allow the parrot to move away, and you're not going to end up with a score in the millions. So I like to wait either half a second or 1 second. That way, when I click on this, I only get a few points, and the game seems to make a little bit more sense. Okay. So we've done quite a bit. Let's recap. We have put a backdrop. We've created our sprite that chases right here. We've created our sprite that moves. We've set up a timer, and we've set up a score. The only thing is, we have this when I receive begin game, but we don't have anywhere for it to say begin game. So we're actually going to now go to events, and we're going to find where it says broadcast. That way, when I start something, the game will automatically send this message out to all the other lines of code. So let's go ahead and grab it, and let's put it underneath this one where it says when the flag is clicked and we set the timer. After the timer sets, it's going to broadcast begin game. All right. So hopefully what's going to happen is everything's going to show up, and we should be able to see the score start at 0, the timer start at 30, and we should be able to move our characters. So let's go ahead and hit the flag. And there we go. Oh, he's not moving. Okay, so we got to figure out what is going on. If I move that to the top, let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I apologize, guys. The begin game needed to be right underneath that. So I could have left it for a lot of these that the game would have started when the flag was clicked. But there is a specific reason why I didn't do it, and you're going to see that in the next video. So just play around, see how you want to adjust it so that your characters can get a score, and just make sure that it's working for right now. We're going to keep moving it around until the timer equals 0 just to make sure that everything's working properly. All right. So notice that I can still move, but my character has stopped moving. In our next video, I'm going to show you how to make this whole screen go to an end game screen.